no matter what level of cyclist you are, sooner or later you are going to get a puncture. So your tyre is going to be flat. Now, the easiest way to release to take the tyre off is to use the tyre levers. First off is you just sort of use it to prise off the tyre. So as you do, you just go around, prising the tyre off. Pretty much when you get to this point, you should be able to just use your hands or just use one tyre lever to take the tyre off all the way. If it's still a bit hard to do this, just keep using the prising technique until you sort of get it out. Now this will enable half the tyre to come off. So now the tube will actually be inside. This tube is punctured, so we can pull it out. Okay, a few things you can do. One, look at patching up the tube. We'll have a video on that soon, one day soon. So if you want to be a bit environmentally friendly, yeah, certainly we'll be showing you how to change a tube so you don't, so the rubber doesn't go to waste. Okay, so we've got this tube, so you're going to take this home and fix it some other day. First thing to do is you need to find out what caused the actual puncture. So the best thing to do is to actually check the tyre. At this point you can actually take the whole tyre off the rim. As you can see, it's a lot easier to take off now because there's no tube in there. And then what you do is you actually go through the tyre and just see if there's anything that sort of has stuck into the tyre to have caused a puncture. Sometimes there's a little bit of glass or a little bit of metal or something like that might cause it, so you just have to make sure that there's nothing in there, because you don't want to be putting in a new tube and then pumping it up and then not having having to do this thing all over again because you've missed it. So I'm pretty confident this hasn't got any bits of metal or any bits of rock in it, this tyre, so it's now ready to put it back on. Now a good little trick to actually be able to judge where you actually got the tyre is to actually run the brand of the tube, the tyre at where the valve of the tube will go. This then will give you a reference point that if unfortunately if you want to check where the tyre is, you can actually pump up the tube. So say that you pump up the tyre and it's a little bit down, you'll be able to see using the reference point where the puncture may have occurred. So always try to get the brand of the tyre right at the valve of the tube. Once you take a tube out, the first thing to do is obviously just inflate it to give it its shape. A lot of people make the mistake of putting the tube in without having it inflated. The problem with that is that if you do that, you're actually prone to for pinching, which you actually don't want to do. Because what happens is the tube might fit in between the rim and the tyre, and that will cause the puncture. So first off is to just get a little bit of air in the tube to give it shape. So just use a pump, click it on, pump it up. Okay, that should be enough to give the shape of the tube. Then you go to the point, the reference point, which is where the tyre is, put the tube in, push it in as far as you can go. And then go around and put the tube in the tyre. Now this tube's a little bit inflated, so what that actually shows is the tube's actually all in the tyre. So now what you got to do is actually get the tyre onto the other side of the tyre on. So just make sure that the tube is fully in and press it all the way around to have the tube in. Now starting opposite the valve, you can with most tyres you should be able to start using your bare hands to actually prise the tyre on. It might get a bit hard at the end, but try to use your hands as much as you possibly can, because that way then you're less prone to sort of be putting tyre levers and things like that in to pinch the tube. So keep going around. Once you can see now we're at the point where we're actually close to the valve and there's actually still a little bit of tyre to go. Now this is fine now to actually deflate the air out now. because we know the tube is actually fitting in there, and then just keep working on getting the tyre over. A couple of people have a bit of technique. You can either use your hand to flip it over, or you can go opposite and use your hand to sort of pry it over. If a tyre is tight, you can use tyre levers, but highly recommended that you don't, because you don't really want to sort of stick a tyre lever in there and pinch the tube. So once you get the tube on, in, you need to make sure that it's seated around the valve. The easiest way to do that is actually just to push the valve in, to actually press it into the tube, and then that should, as you can see, it should actually get it seated. Once you're at this point, bring the pump around. Pump it up a couple of times just to give the tube its shape. Take it off and just check that the tyre is seated. Once you can see the tyre is seated, like you might have bulges of tubes or whatever coming out, just make sure the tyre is seated. Once you're comfortable with how the tyre is seated, then you can pump the tyre up to the full pressure. But just to recap, start off, obviously take your tyre off using tyre levers, check your tyre thoroughly so there's nothing in there that will cause a puncture again. Use the brand of the tyre as a reference point for the valve for, hopefully not, but future areas of where to get a puncture. Make sure you inflate the tube just slightly to give it shape, to allow it not to overlap. And yeah, pump up once the tyre is fully on. Pump up the tyre to a small pressure, just to enable you to make sure the tyre is seated, and then pump up your tyre to the recommended pressure the tyre has. Thank you.